So in this video, we're going to go through the different back office related details that are stored against the candidate record, how those details are accessed, and ultimately what they'll mean further down the line. So we're within a candidate record here, and there are two components within this area, in the record, that we want to go through. One is payment details, and the other one is bank details, and those are accessed either off the View More menu, or you can access them off the right-click menu under Back Office and Payment Details, Bank Details. It's also a point of note that these areas are accessed via user group permissions. So if you do not want certain users to be able to gain access to these areas, then they can be denied access to those, and you can grant obviously specific users to have access. But if we select payment details, what you'll see is a partial view come down, and essentially it will list the associated payment details in relation to the candidate. So starting with the limited company or umbrella perhaps that might be associated with the candidate record. This can be either free text, or it can actually be a company record that you've created on the system. If that's the case, then you can look up that company here. But we do accept, obviously, for someone to just free text type in that company record. You then have the company registration number, the VAT number and the account reference, the tax code, which is driven by a lookup which you can define, the payment address, which will be a drop-down list of available addresses. This will list just the candidate address if you've just typed in a free text limited company, but if you have associated a company, an actual company to the record, then it'll also list the associated addresses against that company. The payment contact, which may or may not be just the contact details of the or the contact name of the candidate, in which case you can just click on this button to paste the candidate name in there. But if it's someone separate, then you can just type in free text, or if it's a actual created contact record on the system, you can look up that contact here, and that contact information will be stored in there. The payment method, whether that be BACS or pay-as-you-earn, and the payment frequency, whether that be weekly, monthly, fortnightly, or periodically. If you choose periodically, then you'll be given an additional value where you can specify a number of days as a bespoke number, but we'll select monthly there. You then have your payroll reference, and you have your national insurance number. And those are your payment details that are stored essentially as default values against the candidate record, because when you place the candidates with a company, these values will be copied over to the placement record, and that essentially stamps the placement record with the payment details of the candidate record. So these are ultimately default values you're storing against the candidate record, ready for when they are placed, but they're stored in this area. The next area to go through is bank details. So bank details are an optional component within Colleague. Again, it's available from a user group permission. And ultimately what you have is the means to store bank information or bank detail information relating to the candidates against their record. Now, this area is, as I say, on the basis of a user group permission, both in terms of accessing this area, but also being able to add bank details to the area as well. Both are based on a user group permission that you'd have access. Also, as a point of note, that data that is stored within Colleague is stored in an encrypted manner on disk against the database. So if the impossible should happen and the database somehow fall into the wrong hands, all information is encrypted, so bank information wouldn't be made available or accessible to anyone. It can only be accessed through the application. So the bank details of that candidate can be stored within this area if you choose to do so. They're stored here. Again, this information is then made available to the placements when you're placing the candidates, and you can pull through the associated bank information into the back office tab of the placement record. But that's bank details and payment details, both held against the candidate record.